That's disgusting.
Don't freak out, it's dead. Babe, you gotta take a picture with this.
No, I don't want to touch it.
Come on, just do it.
Fine.
Yeah.
Just be quick.
Okay.
Ugh.
Okay, take it yourself. Okay.
Come on.
Babe, you better put that down.
Although the horseshoe crab is harmless in every way, once fired up with radiation thanks to mankind's idiocy, the little fellas can become quite the threat to our existence. And so begins CRABS, the debut feature of one Pierce Berolzheimer, and the film that is my bet for the breakout crowd favourite at this year's Monster Fest Melbourne season. Joining us all the way from, I guess, his home in the US is Pierce. Thanks for joining us on Screen Watching, mate.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay,
That's,
so
high praise. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, I enjoyed the film very much. Congratulations. It's a lot of fun. I guess the standard sort of setup questions in these sort of interviews is what inspired you, but it's kind of all up there on the screen. There's Gremlins, there's Critters, there's the 80s practical effects, horror comedies. We clearly grew up watching the same movies. What others do you want to add into the mix?
Jurassic Park. There's
Okay.
a couple like straight up Jurassic Park references in the film. There's one that nobody, I don't know how many people have seen this one. It's called Prehysteria. It's
yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's like a full moon movie that I remember getting like at the video store as a kid. And I didn't even realize how much of a reference it was for CRABS until later when I started talking about it being a reference, because even the title has an exclamation point at the end of Prehysteria. But I love the idea of like little puppets and things that don't actually exist in the real world, but making them come alive in movies. And that movie does a great job with like these little micro dinosaurs that I love that.
Yeah, it's a fun film. First time I've thought about you mentioning it. First time I've thought about it in 30 years. So congratulations.
Yeah.
I love that film. You've traveled a long road to get CRABS over the line. You started writing it when still a teen, and it certainly retains some of that, I guess, endearing golly gee sort of teenage film fan energy. Is it still largely the film you set out to make?
Yeah, it's I was really lucky with this movie where I had almost complete creative control. And so the way I like to describe it is like, given the tools I had at any time and given the knowledge that I had at any time, I pretty much did the best that I possibly could with everything at every moment, right? So the movie as it is right now is very different than the movie we set out to make, but given all the external factors that, what I knew very little about actually how to direct or make a movie when we started this project. And now at the end, I have a much better sense of how to do that. And, there were a lot of complications with, we were cutting out characters the week before we shot. We lost locations and had to rewrite the script in order to suit other locations. And so it's not the movie that we set out to make, but given every little piece at any one time, I think it's the best version of that original idea that we could have gotten, given all the circumstances.
Where did you shoot? Give us because it's got that Goonies type of coastal feel, energy about it, the small town sort of enclave that's part of mainstream America, but also kind of separated from it. Where are the locations?
Yeah, so we filmed it in Fort Bragg and Mendocino, California, and my grandmother moved up there while I was little. It takes about 4 hours to get to from San Francisco, so it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. But I knew the town because we would go up during the summer, and so I wrote the movie specifically for that town. None of the locations specifically, but the town itself was sort of the I knew the movie needed to be set there. It's the best little small town in the middle of nowhere sort of place. And then each of the locations, we really lucked out finding some of the main location where the two brothers live, and there's the barn. That was a replacement location for somewhere else. And then once we found it, it was the most serendipitous thing in the world, because that big barn was actually used for ship repair, for fishing boat, repairing fishing boats. And so it was just completely filled with all of this stuff. And then, not to give any spoilers away, but the interior cockpit of the end of the movie was built entirely using materials that we found in the actual barn. And so that was just like our art director taking stuff that he found and built that set. And so stylistically it matches, but it matches basically because of luck. I mean, granted, our art director, Angel Herrera, is absolutely amazing, and I cannot praise him highly enough. But the actual physical objects it was just luck. I mean, there was a lot of luck on this project.
Great cast of characters, also very much out of that 80s film vibe. Let's talk about Radu just for a second. He certainly seems a bit of a throwback to 80s movies and characters like Serge in Beverly Hills Cop, or dare I say a certain character from 16 Candles. What's your counter to those who might say he's not very 2021?
Totally. I was expecting a lot of that. A lot of our reviews point out Radu, and for me, Radu is sort of an acknowledgement of those old characters. And at the time, those characters worked for some people and didn't work for others, and had a lot of problems. There's a lot of social issues with trying to sort of tokenize a character or use a foreignness or an otherness of a character in order to get a laugh. And yet people laughed at those characters at that time period, right? So so Radu for me is a character that comes from nowhere. There is no reference to where he lives at all. He uses made up words. He uses like his currency is Danukin, which is not a real currency. He never says where he's from. He has no history, no parents, no relatives. Like, he is a person out of time and out of place. And what I wanted to do with him was sort of have him be, the goal of the movie was to have, for the goal of Radu was to sort of have him be a straight man in a world where people are talking in scientific gibberish about Amorium clustergrams and building giant robots in the middle of like without any context, speaking directly at the camera. And Radu is sort of the one who's outside looking in. And for me, he's the audience. He's the audience looking at this, being like, this is absurd. Does everyone recognize that this is crazy? Like, let's point it out to the audience. Hey, like, this is really weird. And the other thing is that Radu, I wanted to set up the expectation that Radu dies, because in the 80s and the 70s, like, typically the minority character or the foreign character or the comic relief, bumbling idiot character dies really early on. And I don't like the catharsis of that. I don't feel catharsis there. I feel like that aspect of it is really problematic. And so for me, having Radu, playing with the audience's expectations and making it seem like Radu's going to die, but then have him be the one that, no spoilers, but I guess this is a spoiler, has a bit during the end credits. My take, I have an idea for a sequel where it's sort of the Radu movie.
Sure.
But and then, the other part of it for me is like the closest character I can think of in any movie to Radu is Borat. And Borat is like a simulation of a fake character from like when they filmed Borat, they didn't film it in Kazakhstan, they filmed it somewhere else. And so, and he's not actually, Sacha Baron Cohen isn't actually basing his accent on Kazaki, I think that's how you say it, Kazaki accent. He's basing it on something else. And so if Radu's sort of the simulation of Borat, who's a simulation of something else. So I understand, like I totally appreciate why people would look at Radu and think that he is a strange character to represent in 2021. I think that's a very fair critique. And I'm not, I'm not one to sort of say whether or not I succeeded in the goal or not. I think that's for other people to say whether it was a success in what I was trying to do or not. Maybe I missed the mark, but I think that the goal all along was sort of to bring that trope out of the ashes in a way that commented on how it used to be done and preserved the part of it that was there, that put it there in the first place, while also never, I mean, I really wanted to make Radu not a character that was like anyone who's ever lived. He speaks English unlike anyone I've ever heard speak English. And yeah, comes from nowhere, represents no one. If anybody's making fun of Radu, it's just Radu.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally get, great answer. Let's get to the real stars of the movie, the crabs. Apart from the fact they look like something from B horror movies, when did the horseshoe crab, FYI, not really a crab, strike you as creature feature material?
The first time I saw it, so my family and I would go down to Georgia in the States for holidays, and they're all over the beach, and they molt. So they actually they'll pop open their shell and then climb out, like in the movie when the second version of it pops out of the shell.
Yeah.
And so we'd find the molted shells, some live ones, all over the beach, but they're terrifying. And you pick them up and they're all creepy and they got all these crazy legs. And one of the first scripts I ever wrote was just a short about a news anchor filming this horseshoe crab attack on a beach. And ever since, I just waited. I'm like, okay, well, by the time I make a movie, someone will have done that. Like, that'll be something that it's such a obvious idea for a monster that's found in nature that somebody will do it. And then it got to the time when I was ready to make a feature and no one had done it. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's what I'm doing.
I'm fascinated with them. We don't have them. We've got variations of them down here in Australia, but we don't have the horseshoe crab, I don't think. But I was able to see one and hold one and touch one when I traveled to Asia, to Vietnam. So they're extraordinary creatures, and they make for great on-screen villainy. But I do want to point out, when I was researching this interview, and yes, despite what you might have heard, I did research this interview, I came across incredible information about their blood. Now, and I'm quoting from the UK National History Museum here. The horseshoe crab blood is bright blue and it contains immune cells that are exceptionally sensitive to toxic bacteria. When these cells meet invading bacteria, they clot around it and protect the rest of the crab's body from toxins. And much of the research done for the COVID-19 vaccine was done using horseshoe crab blood. Did you know any of this?
I did, yeah.
This is extraordinary. The first thing I did when I started typed in horseshoe crab, the first thing that popped up was how their blood's going to save the world.
There's some incredible photos of people milking horseshoe crabs,
yes,
where there's a bunch of scientists with jars of blue blood, and they capture them, milk them for their blood, and then send them back. And a small percentage of them die, but the vast majority of them go off to live, and then they have more babies, and then they catch them again and milk them again. And almost the crazy thing is almost any pill or vaccine or any medicine really is tested using I forget exactly what it's called. It's a protein that they have in their blood, some sort of, they lack hemoglobin, and I forget exactly what the other protein is, but they're all tested for impurities using blue horseshoe crab blood.
After 300 million years, the horseshoe crab was just about to have a complete change of perception in the eyes of mankind and become the hero to our existence. And you turn them into movie villains. What the hell were you thinking?
I know. No, to be honest, one of the comments we got once the clip went viral was people were like, how this is awful. I really hope that people, like idiot people, are going to go and stomp on the horseshoe crabs on the beach. So I went back and we changed the credits in the film, and we added a whole disclaimer that's like, horseshoe crabs are harmless. They're super valuable to the medical community. Please don't pick them up by their tail. Don't hit them with a rock. Like, I promise they're not going to eat your face. Like, just leave them alone. They're really weird and looking, but like, don't kill them. Don't hurt them. They're great.
Mate,
So I really hope we don't have like the Jaws effect after this movie.
other than at the box office. Box office good,
Yes.
killing crabs bad.
Agreed.
Yeah, all right, mate. Thank you so much for chatting to us. Congratulations on the film and good luck with the Monster Fest screening. Pierce, lovely to talk to you, mate.
Yeah, you as well. Thanks, Simon.
Thanks, guys. You still there, Grant?
Yeah.
All right. All the best, Pierce. Thank you.